How y'all doing? Cheers. Welcome on Mellow Homies. I'm your Black Ribbon Warrior host, Lee. I am a melanoma cancer warrior survivor. As we know, melanoma doesn't go away. It just waits once you get past all the stuff. I had a tumor between the brain and the skull. It was about the size of a ping pong ball. And that was in July of 2021. And this is now middle of September 2025. So, still kicking. Currently in surveillance mode, so that's awesome. So I'm rocking that out. But I've got a little story I want to tell y'all. Something that was really cool that happened right before I got diagnosed. Okay, so we were in the process of getting diagnosed. We went through. I say in the process of getting diagnosed. We were getting the testing done to see what kind of cancer I had, because my lymph node was under my arm was huge, like the size of a softball at times, and they didn't know what it was. They thought it was non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. So while we were in getting testing and the tests were not back yet, we went back to Ohio, where I'm originally from, and I reside in South Carolina. But we went back home for the 4th of July. My family does a big gathering and celebration. And in that week, I was like kind of spacey. My motor skills were really slow. I was having trouble. Like, I noticed my cousin and another young lady who I absolutely love. These people are amazing. But I looked at them, made eye contact, and didn't recognize them. 30 minutes later, they were like, "Hey, hello." And I was like, "Hey, did you just come in?" They're like, "No, we've been here." So I felt bad. I still feel bad about that, because that was a moment where I knew something was really screwy. But anyway, the story that I wanted to tell was about this skillet. And you go, what? There's been conversation about leaving your legacy. Like, what's going to be around? What are people going to remember when you're gone, right? They're going to remember how you battled with this cancer, how your attitude was with it, what it was like going through treatments, what you were like after treatment. My wife remembers, after I had treatment, the next 2 days, I was laid out. Like, there was no energy at all. So one of the things that made it really cool was, so when we went back, my middle daughter was a senior in high school, and she was getting some pictures taken. She was going to be a senior that year. So she was getting some pictures taken of, like, the farm. And the farm that my family owned is what they call a century farm. And it was established in 1829. So my grandpa grew up on this farm. So that's really, really cool. And what my aunt said was that they still farm the land now. But she said, "Hey, we were cleaning out great grandpa's barn." And I was like, "Okay." She goes, "We found this old skillet, this cast iron skillet." And she knew I was into cast iron, as you can kind of see. And I said, "Okay." So she says, "I'm wondering if you can fix it up for me." I'm like, "Yeah, sure. Let me take a look at it." So let me show you this beautiful piece. So here it is. It's a 12-inch skillet, right? Has a number 10. Now, some of you may not know this, but the size 10 is for the eye on a wood-burning stove. If you watch some of the older shows and they had the wood-burning stoves and they pull the little metal plate out, well, that is the size that this would sit on. And so I take a look at this skillet and I'm like, oh my goodness, it's beautiful. It's thin, one pour spout, it's 12 inch, it's got a really cool looking handle. I flip it over. What do you see? Well, this right here is what they call a gate mark. And that is where when they would pour the hot iron into the mold, there'd be this tab, and then they would whack off the tab. Okay, well, SM Company, okay. I'm not sure exactly what that one was. This pitting is actually sand shifts in the mold, and this says it was made in Pitts, PA, so Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Pretty cool. Now, what you also notice, H and Co. Limited. This is actually another piece, like this was made for another company also. So this SM Co. is what is modern day standard, the standard company, you know, that does like bathroom faucets and fixtures and toilets and stuff. That was this one. This H&R, I couldn't find anything on that. The limited is just a ghost mark, so a really, really, really cool piece. And really the only thing I could find on it was this piece was made between 1875 and 1900. Now, I have no idea whether my great-grandma Pearl would have used this on her wood-burning stove in the house making meals for my grandpa as a kid or growing up. I can only assume. But great-grandma Pearl, she died in 1942, and I was born in 1977, so I never met her. In fact, I really didn't know much about her until I started researching this. So, before I got diagnosed, like formally diagnosed and started treatments and all that stuff, my aunt gave me this skillet. So one of the big chores once I started trying to find a piece of myself after the brain surgery was refinishing this skillet. And, you know, it's a beautiful, beautiful piece. I love this thing. And you say, well, why do you still have it? Well, here's the funny thing. Is I was, you know what it's like after treatments. You're just terrible. And one of the things that I deemed that I needed to do was learn how to make biscuits from scratch. This skillet, I baked my first biscuits. I had commented a few times that I never realized how relaxing and comforting frying bacon in a 120-year-old skillet could be. This skillet, just every time I cook in it, I feel connected to, you know, the past, to ancestry, to family. And yeah. So, you know, as far as a legacy, I'd never met my great-grandma Pearl, but I feel connected to family when I cook in this. And to tell the story of how my aunt found it in a barn that they were tearing down because it needed tore down. And so when I was talking to her and I told her I got it all seasoned up and everything, and it's all good, ready to go, but I didn't know if I was going to bring it back to her. And she said, Lee, it wasn't meant for me. And I said, what? She goes, it's yours. And I choked. I said, what? She said, it was never meant for me. It was meant for you. So keep it, love it, and that I have. I've cooked many meals in this, and it is my bacon cooker. I go straight to it for bacon and biscuits. This is one piece that, you know, I want my kids to get a hold of and cherish. So, yeah. It's silly to think that, you know, something like, it took cancer to get this skillet into my life. It took that journey to make me realize the important things, to step back and say, you know, look at the history of things and to appreciate that. And, you know, all these skillets back here have a history, and they're important to me in a different way, and I'll get into those another time. But this one here, because it came into my life, I'm getting goosebumps. Because it came into my life at the beginning of this cancer journey, and to be able to stand here today and, you know, 4 years, little over 4 years later, and be able to tell y'all about it is pretty awesome. It's remarkable for me. A piece of history that, you know, thinking, man, my grandpa probably ate biscuits before he went out to farm or went to school or whatever. You know, great grandma Pearl probably fried bacon in this. You know, all their meals came in this. And that's just mind-boggling. That's just wow. You know, how many, if this pan could tell stories, if this thing could tell stories, you know, it'd be amazing. So I've taken it upon myself that I'm going to share this story, my story with it, keep it going to where my kids know it by heart and don't have to go back and look up what I was talking about. So, rock on, my mellow homies. Take time to look at the little things. My whole cancer journey, brain surgery, I mean, it's amazing how I step back now and look at the little things and appreciate all the small stuff. So, with that, I'm out of here. Y'all have a great week. Rock on. Ah.